Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Paul. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Blasting the shot. What a goal!
Hello everyone, welcome to your latest Wolves Fancast episode. I'm your host, Little Dan. On tonight's show, I've got with me to start with Greg Richards and Danny Rosamond. I hope you're both doing well. I mentioned to Greg before we came on the show that I'm still really tender from the weekend's victory over Aston Villa. A culmination of alcohol, relief, delirium has finally taken its toll on this little man's head and body. So stick with me tonight. It's going to be a pretty long episode, I think, as Wolves try and close the window with the completion of the signings of Marshall, Munetsi, and Nasser Djiga. Marshall, Munetsi, obviously Mario Lemina. I don't think it's been officially confirmed by Galatasaray that Mario Lemina will be joining on a permanent deal. We've already mentioned Nasser Djiga, however you want to pronounce that. We'll get more info on that as the week progresses. The rumour that Conor Coady was in talks with the club with a potential swap deal with Craig Dawson. We're going to talk over the rest of the window. Obviously, Kevin Danso leaving Wolves in a bit of an embarrassment, along with Matheus Cunha extending his contract until 2029. Danny, obviously we haven't had you on for a long while. Thanks for joining us on the Wolves Fancast. What was your thoughts quickly on that victory over Aston Villa on the weekend?
Yeah, needed. Other results went our way. I fancied us against them. I was in the minority against Arsenal. I didn't think we played too badly. I saw an improvement. I could see ideas and the shape we were going to play. Fair play to the lads the weekend. I thought I've seen a lot of Villa fans moaning about what they've got available to select, when in truth we've got no number 9. He's injured. Joel Gomez was suspended, and we got Matt Doherty, a 30-odd-year-old right back, filling in at centre back. So no excuses. I thought they all played well. Bellegarde played a game that his ability's been threatening, but he hasn't done it for whatever reasons. Probably helps playing in more of a natural position. And I thought Sarabia was superb as well. So the most important thing is the 3 points. I think it was massive. Still going to be a bit of a roller coaster the rest of the season, I feel, but it was just relief. I think you got the right word there.
It was said like a culmination of relief, delirium. Because, like I said, for the majority of that game, I thought we more than matched Villa for intensity. You mentioned Bellegarde there, probably had his best game in an old gold shirt. What were your thoughts on the victory, Greg? It was a big win. Four defeats on the bounce at home in a local derby. Not really rivals, are they, Villa? They never really have been. But there was an intensity. Maybe that 5:30 kickoff helped the atmosphere on Saturday. I know I was in a good mindset come off past 5, which I'm regretting now. But that 3 points is worth this headache.
Yeah, I think like Danny said, there was some players had a real marked improvement in their performances. One thing I would particularly call out is the commitment levels, and playing with an intensity that, let's be honest, we haven't seen this season really. And I think that was the big thing. And I sat there at halftime. I was like, well, where's this team been for like the season? The commitment, the tackling, the tracking. You look at players like Sarabia, who looked a different player. I'm not saying he's the answer all of a sudden, but you look at the kind of the tackles were going in, people were challenging, the movement, the energy. It was a really different side. And I think we would have turned a load of teams over on Saturday, Villa or not Villa. We would have beaten a lot of teams putting that performance in, which kind of augurs well. And I think it's got to build on it. I think for me, just one I want to call out straight away is I think Totti having a left-sided centre half back in and then moving Agbadu across. I mean, he played well in himself, but it also felt like more balanced. That you've got a left-footed centre half, or then Agbadou was trying to have to keep coming back on his right foot. It kind of opened us out. Balls were going out to Aït-Nouri, and we were building from there. So I mean, he played well anyway. But I really think in terms of the balance of the team, we looked a lot more balanced at the back, which has been a big issue for us.
Yeah, totally agree. I think even Agbadou being in a more comfortable position made us look a lot more solid as a unit defensively on Saturday. But never really caused us many problems in the first half. Obviously, Unai Emery made at half time, similar to the return fixture when they made. I think it was 3 subs at half time, pretty much turned the game on its head. But apart from that sort of dubious offside goal that was given against Villa and the chance that Daniel Marlin had, I thought we were, like you said, we were more than good value for the money. The Villa fans I've spoken to have graciously replied to my messages today through work-related meetings that Wolves were a better team and that Villa looked flat, but their post-Champions League record hasn't been great this season. Has only the one win after a Champions League game, and that was against us back in I think it was September. But yeah, it's been a long January, and the window's coming to a close tonight around 11 p.m. The signings of Munetsi and Djiga haven't been completed yet. The medicals are still ongoing as far as we're concerned. There was a quick comment earlier on YouTube from Neil White, Danny, that says, has Jeff Shee been transferred out? Based on sort of we haven't completed the deals for the 2 players from France, how are you judging this transfer window as a whole?
Listen, it's 2 centre-backs and a centre midfielder. We needed it. So you'd say good from that. But what I will say is, if you're needing to sign 2 centre-backs in January, you've got something horrifically wrong in the summer. So I think credit where it's due, but also you're correcting your own mistakes from the summer. All's not forgiven. And another thing I'd like to say is it is the last day. I know transfers aren't easy, especially in January. We've had about 6 games that we've had to, other than Agbadou, we've had to get through. And we haven't really taken many points. So we know the January transfer window is coming. You know that as soon as the one in August closes. So, yeah, I'm sounding very ungrateful here. I just think the way we do our business, not great. We've got the players we need, hopefully.
It's reactive, isn't it? It's reactive. Yeah, that's all it is.
Even the link with Coady earlier. What is the point of that? I don't get it. I can't see Conor Coady coming in and saying, yeah, I'll have a 6-month contract. So minimum he's going to want a contract to the end of next season, possibly the season after. So then you're stuck with a wage because he's not going to play. I get the whole, he's a leader in the dressing room and all that. But I just can't see any, like I said about Vitor Pereira earlier with the Arsenal game, I can see his ideas, his shape, it's coming. It's just scattergun approach a lot of the time. We now seem to be going from technical players with a lot of, who are going to be good in 2-3 years to make a lot of profit on, and now we've realised we've got no physicality in the team. Let's buy players with physicality. Let's hope it's enough. That's all I can say.
We did speak to Conor Coady via Instagram this evening. It doesn't look like the move is going to happen. We've left it a little bit too late in the window. He was keen on a move back to Wolverhampton. You mentioned it didn't really make sense on paper. It feels like Craig Dawson has fallen massively out of favour under Vitor Pereira. Greg, we talked about it quickly off air before we started. His sort of appearances under Vitor Pereira, I think it was the away performance at Tottenham never really did himself any favours in that left centre-back position. Obviously, he's had some horrific games this season, the 2 own goals away at Everton, given the way the 1 penalty at home to Bournemouth when he pretty much played Evan Nilsson in, which pretty much put Jose Sarri into no man's land.
Yeah.
He was injured for the final third of last season. I'm not sure really if he had much of a pre-season. And at the age that he is now, unless you're playing week in, week out, when you're not playing regularly, it's hard to reach the levels that he's played well for us at recently. Because when he came in under Lopetegui under that 1 January window, him and Mario Lemina was massive in that campaign to avoid relegation that year.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Danny kind of alluded to it at the start when he talked about Matt Doherty. You know, ultimately we're playing a right wing back ahead of him, which just shows how far he's dropped. I think, like you say, I think when he was at West Ham, he was a regular. He was playing week in, week out generally. But I think Father Time, unfortunately, has caught up with him. I think it was a great play when he came in and did an important role for us. But I do feel that we just don't know. We don't see what happens on the training ground, but what we've seen has not been great. And I think, unfortunately, his legs may be on the way out. And I think that might be the reason why they're trying to do that swap. I think, Danny, the points you've raised in terms of the longevity of the signing and what does that mean as a plan going forward are completely valid. You know, like it kind of feels a bit rushed. It's not like a plan. But I think I think he's just, that's where it is. I think his legs on in a position, and that's where we're looking at other options to move forward. It's a shame. He did a great job for us, and we'll always be grateful for that. But I think this is the reality now, is that we probably won't see much of Craig Dawson going forward.
Do you think Conor Coady would have been a good addition to the dressing room or the squad, Greg, or was it literally sort of, you know, getting another homegrown type player to fill the quota, and it's an option if and when you're desperate?
Yeah, I think he's more of an option now. We're playing with a back three. I would have been really concerned had we been still persisting with the back four that obviously Gary O'Neill started the season with. That would have really concerned me. I think maybe that isn't it. There's a nod to that, but I don't think, obviously, that's not the be all and end all. And we would still need him to play games of football. And I think it would have been a short term appointment. It's not the end of the world. I think we need more people I think we need to get the signings that we're looking at the moment. I think they're more important. So I think that's where we need to move towards. I mean, it's an interesting one for me watching our transfer window in terms of, we obviously had a very Portuguese-centric recruitment policy. Then we've kind of pivoted to a Brazilian-centric, which is kind of a sister league because they still speak Portuguese. You're kind of half there. And now we seem to have pivoted round to France. So it's quite interesting for me, going back to the whole Jeff Sheehan transferring out. I think it goes back to, where are these, unless, unknown to me, Jorge Mendes has now suddenly recruited a load of French footballers, and that's where we're getting them from. I don't know who their agents are. I don't think they are. I think there was one photo with a guy in the aeroplane, and he didn't have, certainly wasn't Mendes. But it's interesting how we're pivoting quite a lot at the moment in terms of the strategy. Like before, we had a very clear strategy, and we then flipped to Brazil, did a few bits and pieces out of there, and some of the earlier noise we were hearing in the transfer window were players playing out in South America. And then in the last week or so, we've kind of flipped again and now pivoted towards the French league, which is an interesting. Perhaps they're more big, more physical. Going back to what you were saying, Danny, in terms of we need, these players. I think it's 6'4" and 6'2", the two players. So obviously there's a nod there towards more of that physicality rather than technicality. I do feel a bit nervous with corners, because we don't have a lot of physical presence, to be honest, in the team. So that will address that, but it'll be interesting to see how we move forward.
We've come a long way from that period of just purely signing Irish players, Danny.
Yeah, we forget about some of those players and games, thankfully. Stephen Ward at left back, making a career at left back, unbelievable.
What were your thoughts on the situation with Mario Lemina unfolding this month, Danny? I mentioned just sort of Mario Lemina and Craig Dawson was huge in that 1 January onwards under Lopetegui, where we avoided relegation. But Richard Russell, who does quite a lot of blogs for us, similar to yourself, Danny, posted a little article on Mario Lemina early today on our Wolves Fancast. I'm not sure if anyone read it. It goes by I'm going to quickly run through it. It's been a rapid fall from grace as far as Wolves are concerned for our former captain, widely known as Super Mario. From a player who wore his heart on his sleeve and whose performances were full of energy, passion, and no shortage of end product, to an outcast. Frozen out the squad and close to being moved on, only Mario and those close to him will know what he's going through. It is not for us to make excuses for him, but as outsiders, we know this. He has given everything for this team when he has played. As a result, he has been much admired by supporters. He was a popular choice for the captaincy. He lost his father around a year ago. He'd apparently formed a close bond with his then manager, Gary O'Neill, and became frustrated at the team's results through the early stages of the season. At West Ham, his frustrations boiled over. He was stripped of the captaincy and Gary O'Neill relieved him of his duties. Since the new coach's arrival, he's been sidelined and said he was not in a good place and was unable to play initially at Newcastle. Being a well-paid footballer offers absolutely no protection against mental health struggles. If Mario is struggling with recent events or just in general, we have no right to judge or jump to conclusions and certainly not attack the player. If you're one of the fortunate people who's never had any struggle or low point in your life, consider yourself very fortunate. Most of us who are able to navigate it without much public scrutiny. If Mario does indeed move on, I would say thank you for your contribution to Wolves and good luck. If he stays, I sincerely hope he's able to reintegrate into the team and continue to make the positive contributions we became used to seeing. We are all human and life is too short. What was your thoughts there, Danny, based on the comments from Richard and the way that Mario's carried himself in this transfer window?
It's a tough one. We might not know the truth until Mario does a book in 10 years or whatever. From the outside, as fans, we're in the trenches at the minute, and it felt like he'd abandoned us. So there wasn't much sympathy from myself, and I'm probably in the majority saying that. If there is, obviously, we don't know what he's going through personally. We don't know what anyone's going through personally. And it's not our right to know if he's struggling mentally. I mean, he has gone and signing for Galatasaray. So we'll see over the next few weeks how he's performing there. It's a touchy subject, isn't it, when you bring mental health into it? There's two roads. If it's not mental health, then I've lost all respect for him, to be honest. Yeah. If it is, I wish him well in getting himself back on track. But we just don't know, do we? We may never know.
That's it. There is a few people, and I think I'm in this same sort of community of people who I'm not really accepting of the mental health card in this instance. It may be that case. But he has got history for this, hasn't he? I mean, Stu in the comment section completely disagree with most of that blog. He's acted like this his entire career, other than the last 18 months here. I think he's played out similar moves at Southampton and I believe Juventus or Fulham. So it's disappointing that it's come to this, Greg, because, like I said earlier, he was huge in that one period. He was easily a front runner for the captaincy in the summer, but tarnished his tenure here with the way he's leaving. Yeah.
I mean, Danny's absolutely right. Listen, we don't know what people are going through privately, and we don't know what is going on. These things can impact people you just don't know in the background. However, I tried to take an evidence-based approach, and I think, like the comment you've just flashed up from Stu, the reality is this isn't his first rodeo when it comes to this kind of behaviour. Which kind of goes against him in this situation. So I feel he was riding a bit of a crest wave, and I think in the end, I think we can all agree the captaincy was the wrong call for him. Particularly if he was going through a lot of stuff anyway, that probably put fuel on the fire, let's be honest. So, I mean, it's easy to sit here in retrospect and go, it's a bad idea, I shouldn't have done it. But I think if we all take a step back, he probably wasn't the right person if he had been going through these challenges, and we know that. Obviously, we don't know what happened. Obviously, his brother came in on loan, didn't do anything, didn't really get any game time. That disappeared. You don't know whether there was any frustration born out of that. Perhaps he just assumed his brother was going to be signed from Paris. So you don't know what's going on. But ultimately, if you look at the fact he hasn't been the same player, apart from that one pass for Cunha and Fulham, I can't really say he did. And his last appearance was a non-event. He came on and did nothing. So, at the end of the day, if that's the situation, we need to move on. If we get we've got some money back for him, and he'll move on. And good luck to him. But yeah, he has, for me, it's very much tainted the end of his Wolves career, and I think he'll disappear into obscurity. Let's be honest, in our history.
Yeah, I think it's one of those situations as well. Obviously, I think he's 32 now. This is probably going to be the last chance he gets earning that one last big contract before he does retire. And obviously, the way that the Saudi move has collapsed on him, probably Galatasaray was probably his best bet, earning another big move. I think at the start of the window, I think we all wanted probably 3 signings in minimum: a centre half, maybe another centre midfielder, and obviously with the injury to Jurgen Strand-Larsen recently, I think 3 was probably the minimum what we all wanted. So I've just added 3 new guys to the set. Welcome to the show, Pricey, OG, Josh, and Ryan Hoops. Welcome back, Mr. Hoops. How are we?
All good. How are we doing?
Good to have you back on, Mr. Stories from the Pack. What's your sort of review, feelings towards how the transfer windows unfolded to date?
I think, as you say, 3 was the magic number, wasn't it? I think even sort of prior to the Agabadu coming on, we were thinking maybe 2 centre halves, and then we've looked at it and thought, well, yeah, that's midfield player that we need for the Lemina, and also a striker with Larson as well. So we look like we're going to get 3 effectively, but we probably won't get that striker. So it's only time will tell, which seems just on the fence answer, but it doesn't seem too bad. We've addressed the fact that the biggest issue we've had this season is conceding goals, and it looks like we're going to get the second centre half over the line, and also we're going to get a defensive midfield player in as well. So that's attacking the main issues that we've had this season. Goals haven't been difficult to come by, have they? Really, let's be honest. So it looks like we've signed in the key areas. Selfishly, I think another striker, particularly when you've got, Sasa will be out for the season, Silva's on loan, Chiwonwe's injured as well, Fraser probably needs a loan. So in terms of a target man, in the absence of Larson, I think it would have been nice to have that type of alternative to go to. But all in all, I think we've addressed the main areas, if not all.
Andrew Chris with a comment. Hello, first time catching you live. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. Agabadu is a quality signing. What have you made to Emmanuel so far, Hoops?
It's great. I mean, his distribution is a bit suspect, and we were chatting about
coming under quite a bit of scrutiny at the moment. And
well, it's quite rightly,
but also I'm of the opinion that a few of his passes that have gone astray, our players are still in a mindset of being safe. That I think he's playing some of these passes in the right direction, and like Ryan Aitnour a couple of times, I think hasn't been a yard or 2 yards where he should have been. I think whilst he's bedding in, I still think there's a really good player here, and I think as he becomes a bit more consistent with these players, I think he'll be a really astute signing. We haven't spent a great deal on him. I think his distribution is being criticised more than what it's justified, but I may be wrong. We'll see.
No, Dan, joking aside, he looks fantastic. He looks a real solid defender. And he was probably the best player on the pitch the last home game. So he's fantastic, but that's just what comes to mind, really. And I think at the Bristol City game, I think I said to Price, I don't know if the pitches are a different size in France, but the way he was spraying it out. But that is a really minor point. He looks fantastic in there. He looks strong. He looks physical. It's what we want. He sort of takes no shit on the set pieces. So, no, he looks a really good signing. And ultimately, if his distribution was a little bit better, we wouldn't have signed him, would we? This is where we're at, So if he was the complete package, but so far, so good.
That's why I'm of the mindset that we've dodged a bullet when it comes to Kevin Danso joining Tottenham. Because I feel if he was as good as the €25 million package that Tottenham have laid out on him, better clubs than Tottenham would have come in for him. I might be bitter that I posted a tweet saying Danso done and Tottenham ended up gazumping us. But That's my mindset. If clubs like Tottenham and Man United are coming in for players at the moment, and the big clubs like Man City, Arsenal aren't even taking a look at these types of players, I think it's a bullet dodged. As soon as Christian Romero's fit, Mickey van der Ven's fit, Tottenham have been trying to sign Mark Gay apparently in the last 24 hours for a big fee, which has been rejected. Kevin Danso is going to be looking for a move in the next 12 months. Put my words on that. Quote me on that in 12 months' time. OG Josh, how are we?
I'm all good, mate. How about yourself?
All good, mate. What were your thoughts on the victory over Villa on the weekend and the way that the windows unfolded?
Oh, it did me the world of good. If you asked me this time last week, I was ready to quit the club, never go again, burn every shirt I've ever owned to the lot. Did me the world of good, and I thought we was brilliant. You know, wasn't clinging on or nothing like that. I think I'd actually argue that the first half was the best 45 minutes I think we put together all season, including Leicester. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. When you consider as well, you know, we've now Strand Larson, we're playing Bellegarde in midfield. You know, really, really positive stuff. And it's more the intensity that they need to keep up. That's what we need to see more often in games, not letting games pass us by. Obviously, I appreciate it's at home, and it's a derby that I saw a couple of Villa fans talk about it, that our players always seem to get up for their players down. And I think that is true, especially at Molineux. The players always seem to step up for us in the big moments. But transfer window, I think they've done well. I really thought after Danzo, I thought this is going to end in a calamity. They're not going to sign no one. It's going to end in tears. They're going to say we've tried, but we couldn't get no one else. And I think they've done well when you think of a setback they had with Danzo to bring in the lad from Belgrade, who does look quite good. Obviously, it's really hard to say because I've not seen him and I've not heard much about him. I like the lad in midfielder, contrary to popular, like everyone else seems to be slating him, and he's got the Huang treatment off opposition fans who were buying him from. He's somewhat different. He's going to crash the box. He's physical as well. I think that's the thing with Agnew. He's physical, and we've missed that bit of physicality in midfield. And it's a different option to what we've got. We've got depth everywhere now, really. The only place you would say is striker, but you look the other day, and do I think we'd have stretched and worked Villa as much as we did with Strand Larson on top? I don't think we would have. You know, Guedes, he didn't score, but he was stretching them. All the front three they played really well and linked up together well. So it's just something that I think we've got depth everywhere. You'd like to think now that should be enough to see us safe. Obviously, the players have now got to do the job.
Definitely. I think Cunha extended until 2029/summer 2025 was really key on the back of that win on the weekend. Hopefully, similar to Bakary Sakho in League One, now that the window's closed, hopefully he can settle down and go back to doing what he does best. Seeing Pricey have a little bit of smirk to that comment there. What's your feelings on the way that Matheus Cunha has handled himself this window, and the comments that you can see on the screen there where he said, "I used my heart to make this decision." Of course, there was a lot of noise around like what Matheus would do, but like we are not in a good situation. And then, I try to do my best. And then if I can do something to help the club then will open the doors for me. If I want something to happen in the future, will be because I try my best, and then we'll leave the club in a very good situation.
Well, I mean, we all know what's going to happen, don't we? We already knew what was going to happen anyway. That it's going to leave in the summer anyway. I thought all this stuff with the contract signing was a bit performative, really. To be honest, it was all a bit of a sideshow theatre. That's basically all. I'm assuming all the contracts still need to just get a form of release clause in there. Although I don't think I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I think most people think that release clause is a bit low if it's to be believed. Or what was it, 62.5 million, I think it was. We're all talking when he was in his hot streak form early in the season. We're all talking like 80 plus to get Cunha off us. We see other players of that similar quality go for that level. So why shouldn't we get that? So if that is to be believed, that is the minimum fee release clause. I kind of feel a bit shortchanged by it, but then again, you have to. A lot of the football politics comes into play then, where if we weren't going to agree to it, was his agent going to push for a move this window potentially? And that was where all like a bit of the bad blood was coming from the fans towards not necessarily Cunha, but maybe his agent, thinking, well, if he does force us to move in this window, he's going to drop us right in the shit, because you know that we're not going to get our act sorted together to get a replacement in time. We know the replacement's not going to be have the same quality as Cunha. So I mean, look, it is what it is. He's got himself a pay rise for the next 6 months. He's gonna go. I think we're all going to expect him to go in the summer anyway. It's kind of we've always talked about on here, and everyone probably talks about Wolves at the moment being a potentially stepping stone club. We get players in from abroad with the motto of you perform well, top 5, top 6 club will come forward, and that's kind of how the food chain works. It's just a bit weird that we've got like him publicly saying that now. That statement that you just put up on screen earlier, he's saying the club will open doors for me, essentially saying I've scratched your back by signing his contract, getting a minimum clause in. You scratch mine when it comes to summer, and you just, if the top 5 club comes in or abroad, you just let me walk out the door. Gentleman's agreement, well, not gentleman's agreement. It's now written probably in the contract, but
yeah, that
says probably that's what's going to come to pass now. So yeah, I thought it was all largely performative. Although the contract signing, we know it's going to go anyway, and then we just look forward to summer to see how we spend the money.
Can we delay his move in the summer like the way he's delayed us being progressive on the pitch, Danny? Because the way I've saw him perform in recent weeks and the way he was kissing the badge and telling the fans how much he loved the place on Saturday, the comments, like he said there, of the club opening doors for him to leave as and when he pleases, it doesn't sit right for me. But at the start of the window, I think if someone had said that Matheus Cunha would still be here, it would still give us a fighting chance, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He held all the aces, didn't he, really? Unfortunately, the last couple of seasons, we're in a very... It's constantly short-term thinking because we need to keep this Premier League status. He's got all the aces in the pack, as I say. He's got his, as Pricey said, he's got his little wage rise for 6 months. He's got his insurance, that he's got his release fee. Apparently, that was the sticking point why he didn't sign it earlier. So maybe we wanted to put 80 million on it. He's got it. It's about 60 million, is it?
Yeah, I reckon the room is 62.5 down there, which I think is less than what Pedro Neto's is overall once the add-ons come into effect. And Pedro Neto's equalised for Chelsea tonight, for those who aren't watching live.
Yeah, I think if we're comfortably mid-table and he's performing like that, we probably can get an 80 million release clause. He's a showman. All the kissing the badge and all this, and then to Matt Hobbs, get the contract. It was a bit like the Dudley boys. Devon, get the tables. It was obviously get the contract, but we're beggars. We can't be choosers. We need him till the end of the season. So it is what it is, and then we'll take the 62 in the summer, and hopefully we see it invested. That is my major concern.
That is the concern, isn't it? The fact that every time we've sold a player for big outlay, folks, and haven't outlaid that exact same fee or more to bring in replacements. And how have you sort of looked upon Matheus Cunha in recent weeks, Greg? Because like I said, I think he's let himself down, but thankfully we've ended the window. Well, I've been jinxed us enough the last couple of days with Dan, so I'm hoping he's still here come the end of the window. Your thoughts on Cunha, Greg?
Yeah, I think you saw the performance. We all saw the performance Man United on Boxing Day. Now he was just driving and just completely controlling the game. That has dropped off significantly. Even against Villa, there were periods where he was, to be honest, he frustrated me in terms of his positional awareness, and certainly towards the end of the game when he went up front, he wasn't up front. He was kind of dropping off, so we had no out ball, so we were inviting pressure. Obviously, he then does what he does and scores the goal at the end, kills the game because he's got that ability, and we all know that. But I certainly think his performances have certainly dropped off from what we saw in the run-up to Christmas. But I think, as the guys have said, we know how this is going to play out. There will be a club that will hit the release clause. He's put it at a level that he knows will trigger, assuming he has a decent or doesn't get seriously injured or anything. They'll trigger that, or someone will trigger that, and then off they'll go from there. from my perspective, we want to get, if that is the case, then we want to get that sorted sooner rather than later. That gives us the opportunity to then reinvest that. Again, there's a bigger question: will we reinvest it? But certainly, you know, for us, if he is going to go in the summer, then I'd like to see him go at the earliest opportunity to give us chance not to be panic buying at the end of August like we have done at the end of January.
That's it. It'll be interesting to see what does unfold in the summer with Matheus Cunha, whether he even makes the pre-season tour to wherever we end up. There is three bits of news in the last sort of hour. Twana Chirera has joined Huddersfield Town on loan. Barnsley are in talks with Wolves over a loan deal for Dexter Lembakisa. 10 hours ago, Tom Dudley at Rocket Pool WWFC posted on his Twitter that Aston Villa midfielder John McGinn has been spotted licking the transfer window. Big news. We keep you up to date with all the big hitting news. Josh, before you joined us earlier on in the show, we talked about Mario Lemina close to joining Galatasaray on a permanent deal. Which allows Wolves to bring in Marshall Munetsi. What's your feelings based on that signing and obviously the YouTube compilations, which I'm sure you've viewed since the link was out?
It's one of them. Obviously, like I said earlier, you know, when you go on Twitter and you read the opposition fans and they're like giving his crap, he has like 30 touches a game. You're like, what are we selling here? But it's one of them things into it. I think we got to the point where it was like anyone will do sort of thing. And obviously the club's had to act late on. Obviously the Ukrainian lad, they couldn't get him over the line for obviously comments what was said today from off their end. So I think it's one of them things. He looks different to what we've got. He's going to get in the box for a midfielder, and obviously we don't have someone who does that. So it's a nice option to have someone who might be a bit of an eye for goal for midfield, might just help us out, box to box and things like that bit. And he's physical, and that's what we want. I'm fed up of teams coming to Molineux and they've just bully our midfield too off the ball. I'm fed up of seeing that. It'd be nice to see someone who's going to actually hit him back for a change. But obviously the big question is, who does he replace? Because obviously I'll take he's going to come in. They're not going to spend 20 million quid for him to sit on the bench. So, is he replacing Andre? Are they going to replace Gomez? Obviously, it's really interesting to think. I'd be surprised if he replaces Gomez. But when you look, Andre was superb Saturday. And he started to pick up form since Pereira's come in. So what we do there, it's really hard to say,
Totally. You mentioned it there, Andre João Gomez, how well Bellegarde performed on Saturday. We travelled to Blackburn Sunday in the FA Cup fourth round. Would you set up that midfield, Josh, based on Saturday's performance? Because obviously Bellegarde was outstanding, but I think if João Gomez is available, he's probably one of the first names on the team sheet most weeks.
Yeah, I think it depends how much the club wants to take it seriously. How high is it on the priority list? If we want to give it a go, okay. Obviously, I'm all for giving Bellegarde another chance in midfield, but I've also seen enough football to know that one swallow doesn't make a fall. It's one of the things. He'll play well this week, and then he might not play well for us for another year after what we've seen. So I think Gomez has got to come back in. And then what do you do from there? I don't really want to see him on the wing, obviously, after that. But is he going to keep in the team for what he played and shift him back out in the wing? I really don't know. But like I say, I think a lot depends on how much the club want to take it seriously. Is he going to wholesale rotate? I'd be surprised, but you never know. Especially Liverpool the week after. It'd be nice, but I think Gomez has to come back in for sure. Even there's exceptions the midfield was the other day, including when Doyle come on. I think Gomez has to come back in.
How seriously do you want us to take the FA Cup, Josh, based on the fact that we're only, I think it's 3 points above Ipswich in the relegation zone?
I think it's hard, but it's hard to say. I think especially Sunday, you want to see us win because winning breeds winning, doesn't it? And confidence. And I think that's what these players need. They've had the life sucked out of them all season with big losses, heartbreaking losses. We've kind of lost the game in every way possible this season. So I think you want to keep that momentum up, even with Liverpool the week after. You want to be able to win these games because you never know. You get through the next round of the cup, and then you're in the fifth round, and you've got another championship team. I'm not saying they're all easy and stuff like that, but you never know. And then you hang on, you're one game from a quarter final, then hang on, you're 2 games from Wembley again. I know obviously we're getting ahead of ourselves and things like that, but these are the things that you got to look at, and it'd be nice for us to see be playing rotating players as well, because obviously in the crunch time come the end of the season, we're going to have a start 11. You want to see these players, the rotated players, coming.
Price, your thoughts on the weekend's fixture away to Blackburn? Blackburn have already sold out their tickets. I think Wolves have been allocated 4,000. How strong do you want Vitor to go? Do you think any of these new signings, whether it's Munetsi or Djiga, they start?
I want us to go as strong as possible, to be honest. I mean, I'm a big advocate of cup competitions, and especially the FA Cup, up for the cup and all that. So I want us to go as strong as possible. There's no reason why we shouldn't, really, to be honest. I mean, Blackburn, they're not going to be. Obviously, it's the team in the league below. It won't be like Bristol. I mean, to be honest, at Bristol, we were all over them for the first 20 minutes. We thought it was going to be a bit of a steamroller job, but then we ended up letting them get back into it. Blackburn, they're doing all right. They're 6th at the minute in the league. They're doing all right. It's going to be a trickier test than Bristol. The Bristol. But I think we should go strong. I'm not sure if any of the new signings, as long as they do sign, granted it's not confirmed yet, as long as the new signings are like they're in, there's possibility for them to be involved from the bench, I'd say. Because the one thing I liked about the defence from the Villa game, granted the new signing coming in, there's a balance to the defence with like Totti, Agbadou and Doherty. There's a bit of a balance to that back three. We saw the best out of Agbadou in the middle. I know. I also have noted that distribution can sometimes be a bit wayward, but he was like that from the first game in Bristol. But that's probably you can explain that away by saying he's just getting used to the team and the movements, etc. But he was dominant in there, and I think again for Blackburn he'd be great in the middle there. Doc's having a great season to his right, and Totti looks comfortable as the leftmost of the centre three. And to be honest, I kind of stick with Andre and João Gomes in the middle. Obviously, I have, along with Ed, been vocal on the pod about Bellegarde and how useless he's been for the most part of his time here. But I mean, Saturday was his best game since his debut, when he made his debut at Man City at home. I mean, obviously centre mid is his jam. That's where he likes to be. That's obviously where he's going to be best. The problem is we've got Andre and João Gomes who've been very consistent, since they've come in, especially João Gomes. There's no way that he can be dropped. He's one of the star boys. So there's competition there, which is good. I mean, for Bellegarde, it's a case of really adapting or dying. Really, if there's no place for him at the minute in the middle 2 positions, I don't see us changing formation. So he's going to have to, when we next see him again, there's a strong chance he will be out wide again. But for the front 3 positions, we should technically have too much firepower for Blackburn. Really, when you look, we've got Cunha, Sarabia, Guedes. I'll even include Hwang in that. We should have strong firepower for Blackburn. So ideally, I would like us to go strong, get in the 5th round. Like Josh said, winning just breeds confidence in the team. Just breeds confidence, and I don't. We've seen so many situations in the past with Wolves where managers not value the cup. We've made 7 or 8 changes, and we limp out to lower league opposition. And it just gets everyone deflated. I mean, it's hard for us to feel more deflated than we have been in recent weeks when we've been talking up the losses. But last thing we need now is to limp out of the cup to a lower league opposition when we've completely changed the team about. Let's just play a strong team. We're up against a lower league opposition, so we've got a good chance of going through if we play to our strengths. So let's do it and bring on the 5th round.
That's it. It's all about getting the job done professionally on Sunday. Danny Price, he didn't mention the one player here, Rodrigo Gomez. I think he's a player that could easily come in on Sunday to play a part in that front 3 that is quite lacking in options after the injury to Strand Larson. How serious do you want us to take the FA Cup, and sort of what team you'd like Vitor to put out?
I hope we do take it very serious. I think if you consider, let's concentrate on the league. I don't mind getting knocked out, but we're still going to put a team out. If they get knocked out, that's going to be no good for confidence. We're never going to win the Premier League unless Jeff is an absolute mastermind and every other club gets deducted 20 points and we don't because we've balanced the books. So why not go for your cup competitions? In terms of the team he puts out, I'd get the Djiga, I'd get the new defender straight in. I think it's worked well with Agbadou. We had Bristol City, obviously. Get him in the midfield. Please don't ask me. I think it's a good thing we've got different profile in midfielders now. I know Tommy Dawes coming in for a bit of a shellacking recently, but football-wise, I think he's a lovely footballer. Vita might have it right with him in terms of can he play in a two? Is he mobile enough? Rodrigo, I think we all universally love him, don't we? He's like a Duracell bunny. He may even rest Nelson and play him right wing back again, because obviously Nelson's going to be important. But I think
Guedes and Rodrigo absolutely terrorised Bristol City in that FA Cup game. I wouldn't be surprised if he went down that route again. Yeah,
they have got that little partnership, haven't they? The little, stay back, cut it back to me kind of thing. If we was at home, I'd be a lot more confident, to be honest, especially after Saturday's confidence boost. Away will be hard. They're no mugs. They're not going to give us the game. I take a scrappy 1-0, get to the next round. Hopefully, as Josh says, could be another championship club. And then you're looking at it going, we're not far off a Wembley trip here, like last year with the Coventry game, if I'm allowed to mention it. Just keep winning, get a bit of form going.
Yeah. Like what Josh said, winning breeds winning, doesn't it? So be interested to see how that game on Sunday unfolds. But it's going to be a tough one. They're going to be up for it. I've already mentioned that they've already sold out for the fixture. Luke Miller has just joined us after just finishing work, saying, what's the news? The latest news is that Ryan Giles has just scored an own goal for Middlesbrough, and Sunderland are beating them 3-2. So was Ryan Aït-Nouri worth that extra 10 million? We'll never know.
And Fabio Silva scored.
I mean, if we do go down and we can somehow force Fabio to stay, I'd be interested to see how he dominates the championship. But with Mendes as his agent, I reckon he'd be one of the first to get out the door if we did get relegated. Wolves still haven't officially confirmed the signings of Munetsi and Djiga. It doesn't look like Conor Coady will be making his move back over to the West Midlands. That did seem a bit of a far-fetched deal at the time. So yeah, look, the latest news is that John McGinn has been caught licking the transfer window. Guys, thank you for joining me tonight on the Wolves Fancast. If you haven't already, please press the like button. If you think the transfer window has gone well this month, press the like button. If you think it's gone terribly, press the like button and subscribe to the channel also while you're there. I'm not really sure where to go with this until Wolves officially announce the signings or something late breaks. It's going to be a bit of a winged program from this moment on. So I'm going to come to you first, Greg. What are some of your favourite transfer window signings in years gone by? Because I did post last year this transfer window was near as exciting as the one where Michael Gilk signed at 5-5 back in the 90s.
Oh, I think we've had some awful transfer windows. Let's be honest. We've never done really well when it comes to kind of the last minute type things. I don't know. I'm honest.
I remember staying up until 1 a.m. when Benica Fobi signed, returned that one window. I think that was and
then went again straight after. Yeah. No. I think the big one was our best window was Nevers. I mean, that was a window where, as a fan base, we went, whoa, something is happening here. I think that, for me, was the one where you kind of go, okay. And then you had the Jotters and everyone else starting to come through. And I think that's when we realised something serious was happening as a club. So I think for me, if I had to call out a window, it would be that summer window where Neves signed. I think that was a big statement of intent from the club in the Championship, particularly.
What about for you, Hoops? Jeff, I was just commented saying, looking more sober today. Dan, I really don't feel it, lads. Honestly, this Wolves transfer window needs to come to a conclusion, hopefully before 11 o'clock, so I can try and get a good night's sleep. Hoops, some of your favourite signings from years gone by?
I was thinking about this earlier. I was thinking Ebanks Blake was one. I believe we signed in January from Plymouth, and I was thinking about that because I feel like we've missed the boat with Championship signings and League One. Obviously, there was a point in our cycle, the McCarthy eras where, we bought the Keoghs of the world from Scunthorpe and Kitely into non-league and so forth. And I know the club is a very different club today, but we've seen a lot of successes from Premier League clubs when they've gone into the Championships, ultimately, obviously from Brentford, but from like Ollie Watkins, and we've seen Derby go... Derby Central, didn't we go to Brighton this week? There's so many examples. So, but yeah, Ebanks Blake was a key one. Uwaluma as well. These are players which were probably quite low profile, but if you look at what they went on to do for the club, those two strikers, they were absolutely massive. So Ebanks was probably 1.5 million. Uwaluma was like 500 grand. Someone will quote me, I don't care, but there weren't much. They didn't cost us a great deal, but they had a real good effect. And I think January's your insurance policy, isn't it? Really, that's your window, depending on what you're doing. So if you're going towards promotion, you get another one just as a kind of a safety net, or as we've seen, if it looks like the shit hits the fan, then it's kind of we'll press the red button, as we did with the signings that Lopetegui brought in, and most of them were successful. So yeah, Ebanks comes to mind. There are others, but yeah, the Fosun one, as Greg said, some of the signings we saw were kind of like rubbing your eyes, weren't they? Nobody would have envisaged, if you've supported Wolves for a long time, Joe Moutinho being announced as a Wolves player, etc. But we've had some bad ones, and I do remember that Gilks one. That you wouldn't want to stop up late to sign Michael Gilks, and he wasn't with us very long. But Ebanks kind of rings true to me as being a good sign in the window.
There's quite a few comments coming through now on the back of this, and there's quite a few really forgettable signings. Josh, being one of the younger members of the fan cast, you won't even remember players like Robert Taylor. Obviously, you might have heard mentions of Thomas Frankowski in the past, but give me some players for you that have signed for Wolves that have really not lived up to your expectation.
Not lived up to expectation. That's a good one. Probably a lot of the COVID window and the first window under Fossen, when it was like they're coming and it was like slapdash, like scattergun. Anyone and everyone. If you had a pulse, you had a chance of signing for us.
Yeah,
obviously.
Jean,
Paul Gladden.
Obviously, Benaya went under Nuno.
We had some proper like Silvio.
Paul Gladden.
Stuff like that. Silvio, it took like 9 months to make his debut, and then he was like cack when he made his debut. And you're like, we've had a few stinkers in that I can remember. I'm trying to think of some that I can think of. That COVID window will always be disappointing because obviously just off the back of that European push, and it like the club tried to transition to something a bit different, and the bought in like Vitinha, who's good now but wasn't ready straight away, and Fabio Silva, obviously Hoover as well, stuff like that. Selling Jota. When you look back at that window, we sold Doherty, Jota, lost Jimenez. That was probably like 75% of our goals the year before. No wonder we really struggled and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But we've had some bad ones. But then, in fairness, we've had a couple of good ones. I'm just going back to like good ones. I remember the first Premier League one, like the lad who was Patricio's mate, and like you get a room, we'd be like, "We're signing someone. Can you guess it?"
Nicholas
Alec. Everyone was so excited, and it was Moutinho. It was like, "Oh my god, it's Moutinho!" And then signing Patricio, I'll never forget that because that was like, obviously Neves was a great signing, Bolly, Jota, all them, but like Patricio felt like it was like, wow, the possibilities felt endless because Napoli was in for him, and this lad who said he was mate was like, now he's joining Wolves, and everyone was like, oh, bollocks, that is. And he was like, no, he's joining, and then he did in the end and stuff like that. And we've had a couple of good ones under Foster, as much as I hate to give him credit, that we've had a couple of good ones.
What we would all do for a couple of Nicholas Alec bombs this evening. Greg, I come to you with the same sort of questions. People are mentioning cult heroes like Say George Olafiniana and Nenad Millia. Some players for you during your time being a Wolves fan.
What that I adored. Yeah,
just some.
I think I mentioned before.
Give us some transfers that stand out for you, good or bad.
John DeWolf. I don't know, Josh. I'm probably going a bit too early for you. John DeWolf was always one, just because he was such a cult personality. You know what I mean? He got such a presence. Actually does a lot of TV work now in Holland. He's quite well known nationally. He does a lot of TV work over there. But he was just such a presence. And I'll always remember the hat trick away at Port Vale, centre half, and the penalty shootout against Sheffield Wednesday, things like that. I mean, that probably had the best penalty I've ever seen, but it was by Kevin Pressman. It wasn't actually by a Wolves player. Probably the best penalty I've seen. But yeah, he was one that I really enjoyed. And then the other player that we had in on loan was Walters that we had in. I think he came in from Liverpool.
Mark Walters lets fly with that one curler against Southend.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. The ability that he had coming in, and we obviously had quite a lot of lone players in those days, kind of bringing through. He was a tremendous talent. Obviously, towards the twilight of his career, but you could still see what a wonderfully talented player he was. And as you say, with that goal, he just bent it straight in the corner. It was beautiful. You
can't knock Hayward during that period. He really chucked his money at it. Unfortunately, the promotion came a bit too late for him, and he wasn't able to push us on in that season in the Premier League. When you look at the players that Dave Jones apparently had lined up, I think there was like David James, Trevor Sinclair. I think Robbie Fowler may have been another one, similar to Mick McCarthy under Steve Morgan. I think he had the likes of Benny Kafabi, Demba Ba and Johan Kuboy, as well as a few others that were mentioned. Price, give us some of your standout signings.
There's always one that always comes to mind straight away. And Josh, again, you're probably not going to be old enough to know this guy, but I was especially after his debut. I remember when we signed Tamuri Ketsbayer, I thought he was going to be absolutely wicked on the, what was it called then? Engeley Division 1, probably back then. And I remember his debut, Sheffield Wednesday, when Pressman, another mention for Pressman, got sent off in about 10 seconds. And then after about, 10 minutes, he took that. I've never seen a free kick well worked in all my life, and especially from Wolves, the free kick that Ketsbayer smashed into the top corner. I just thought, here we go. We've got a player here. I think that was Lescott's debut as well. After we signed him, after we signed Ketsbayer, and I think you fast forward 6 months, and he was getting subbed off. I think it might have been Palace or something. He was taking his shirt off and throwing it on the floor. I just thought, and he probably only scored like another one goal since then. So that was always a bit of a letdown for me when I think about strikers. And obviously Frankowski as well. We've already mentioned him, but he was one only because I think on the Football Manager or whatever it was at the time. His stats were off the charts. He was playing for Wisla Krakow at the time, and he was like, look on Football Manager, all the important stats were like 17, 18. I thought it's going to be brilliant. That's the reason why we called him the missing piece of the jigsaw. And I remember when he took to the pitch, he was like wearing shorts that were way too big for him. He was basically wearing leggings, and then he barely had the shot, did he? I think one thing that summed him up was when he got put clean through. I think Watford at home, running clean through from the halfway line, and I think he tried the lamest chip attempt to have a Ben Foster possible. At that point, I just thought, forget it. He's never going to score. And then probably the other infamous one, I suppose, for Wolves in more modern times was Roger Johnson. That's probably a transfer window one, which I thought, at the time we thought that, because I remember it was him and Scott Dan, wasn't it? I think for Birmingham, and they formed a really good partnership. And I don't know, he's a bit gangly for a centre half, isn't he, Roger Johnson? But we thought, okay, he's part of half of a good partnership, and obviously that just went to shit pretty quickly.
Top of the league after 2 games, and before we cracked him, Roger Johnson was going to be the next Billy Roy to lead us to Championship glory, and he led us to the Championship, all right.
We always seem to pick, like, when it comes to partnerships, do you reckon we sometimes pick the wrong one? I'll use that term lightly because when Billy Sharp and Andy Keogh had a good partnership going, we bought Andy Keogh, who, to be fair, was a good servant to us. And then when Callum Wilson and Leon Clark were tearing up at Coventry together, we go and get Leon Clark and not Callum Wilson.
I'm still convinced that Scout was looking at Callum Wilson during that time, and he just got him mixed up. There's no way we've signed Leon Clark seriously when Callum Wilson was in the form of his life.
But I mean, as far as good memories, and I know it didn't turn out brilliant, but that first, as has been mentioned, the first transfer window, the first summer transfer window under Dawson, because at that point we were used to just getting domestic-based players essentially, and suddenly we're getting Helder Costa, Benfica, Cavallero from Monaco. We were just thinking these players are trading where and coming to Wolverhampton, they're coming giving up Lisbon to Wolves or giving up Monaco to Wolves. It was ridiculous, and obviously it didn't turn out great, but it was just fun. It was a fun transfer window. I think you look back at it now. Over the course of that one transfer window, I think we were signing one player every 4 days, every 3 or 4 days, something. It was ridiculous. I know they were Ola Johns and all these no marks you've never heard of before or since. But you can't in our modern times you can't go wrong with the second summer Dawson window when Nuno was in and we were just pulling out these class transfers left and right. But when you look through the comments coming through, there's some cracking names from down the years, like Jeremy Aliadier there. That was, in fact, he was in the same time as Frankowski, wasn't he? So I remember Hoddle having a front four to pick from of Aliadier, Frankowski, Court, and Kenny Miller. The championship. What a front four that was.
Yeah, you look at the players I just mentioned there, how we didn't run for league with that forward line. It's just Glenn Hoddle's got blood on his hands. Some of the players that are being mentioned in the comments section, Emmanuel Frimpong, Philip Afosu, who's always injured, Chris Marsden for sort of the older ones in the group. I'm still sort of hurting from when he scored that goal for Southampton. I think he was in the FA Cup quarter-final the one year. I think it was under Dave Jones. Already mentioned Jeremy Aliadier. Michael Zoro started really well. I think he scored a brace on his debut at home. I think he might have been against MK. No, I think he got injured against MK Dons. Who did he score his brace against at home?
Was it Bolton?
So I have to clarify that for me. Mal Kamara has been mentioned now. Dean Richards, when we signed him from Bradford Hoops, just what a signing he was. And I remember being absolutely gutted when he left on a Bosman because I thought we'd been financially shafted by the footballing community that way.
He was just class. I mean, I talk about him a lot because he would get in the side sort of today. I know there was a clip recently on social media about the game that we had in the cup actually against Spurs where he was just absolutely colossal that day. But yeah, for a defender like that, really, it was crazy because when he came in, because I was used to kind of, your Peter Shirtlifts or your sort of your old school centre halves. And I was like, oh my God, he's not just kicked it. He's actually moving up the pitch. What is he doing? He was the first defender that I'd seen that actually could play rather than just head the ball out the box and whack it into Rose head. It's he's moving forward. He keeps going. He was, what a player. But the worst, while I was thinking about it there, and I'm sure I can't see the comments from on the phone, but I don't know if they've been mentioned. But talk about the FA Cup again, and people know where I might be going here, is Steve Claridge and Robbie Slater. Horrendous signings, leaving Mr. Bullenkeen on the bench. Just, terrible.
Do you know what hurts still about that? It's just come back to me because you mentioned Steve Claridge, is the fact that I think Mixu Patalainen was scoring for fun in the FA Cup that season. I think he ended up getting recalled from Bolton or somewhere. But then, Steve Claridge and Robbie Slater. Robbie Slater was in the Blackburn Rovers Premier League winning team, and he thought, bloody hell, we've signed another marquee player here to finally get over the line from the Championship at the time. And other sort of cult hero names, Alan Nilsson's been mentioned, Dennis Rosa. We went for that period, didn't we? David Kelly and Don Goodman, who I think we'd signed from Sunderland after Sunderland had got promoted to the Premier League at that time. And we've had some seriously fun times being a Wolves fan, but recently it's become really, really difficult. And that's why at the moment at our Wolves Fancast Teemo store, you can get our current Don't Be Sad Mate Moxie t-shirt, which is available at £18. Can't knock it. £18, good value for a t-shirt. Available in all multiple colours and sizes. Visit our website, wolvesfancast.tmill.com. And on that note, I'm going to be calling it a night because my head is pounding. You can be sure to join us on the Wolves Fancast this Friday night for our match preview show for the fixture away to Blackburn on Sunday in the FA Cup 4th round. Please be sure to press the like button as we close the show. I want to thank Greg, Danny, Josh, Hoops, Pricey, and everyone that supports the Wolves Fancast and everyone who's joined us on tonight's show. Have a good rest of your week. And as always, up the Wolves.